I think that when we make decisions, we make them either from a place of fear or love. And so when we make decisions from a place of love and we allow love to dictate our actions and our thoughts, then yeah, it's a verb because it's what you're putting out into the world. And when you are making decisions from a place of love, then I think you're also being your most authentic self because you're allowing yourself to be vulnerable, to be seen, to be exactly who you are without necessarily the ego coming into play. So when you love, your ego can't really be a part of it because love is something that's unconditional that you put out into the world.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to All Smith. I'm truly honored to sit down with today's guest. She's a luminous soul, and she's more than just a coach and a lawyer, but she's a spiritual architect, an intuitive guide, and a heart led entrepreneur who helps people reclaim their bodies, rewrite their stories, and realign with their divine essence. Her work bridges the physical and the mystical, blending embodied movement with nervous system regulation, honest storytelling, and amazing feminine leadership that transitions into lived practice. Today, I'm so excited to introduce Kayti Simonson. Welcome to the show.
Hi, thank you for having me.
I loved chopping it up with you online or offline. And it's just one of those things where it's like sometimes you connect with people and you're like, oh, game recognized game. Like our frequency is just on the same level, on the same path. And before we unpack your story a little bit, like what's kind of lighting your heart on fire right now in the present moment? What's getting you excited as far as like recency bias?
Realizing that my potential is limitless.
Mm,
It's only been recently that I've kind of come to terms with this, and I'm still coming to terms with this, but I feel like there's literally nothing that's out of reach if I want to focus my energy towards it in a healthy way.
that's beautiful. That seemingly though comes from a behind the scenes, like peek behind the curtain level of confidence. Where was that kind of instilled in you? Was it through stacking evidence with being a lawyer, being somebody that has participated as a full time athlete and lawyer for a very long time? Is it based on your upbringing, your childhood, and how your parents instilled some of those values in you? Like, where does that confidence come from?
All of the above. I
Mm,
was raised, my dad taught me that there's nothing I can't do if I'm willing to work hard enough and be focused and disciplined and make the necessary sacrifices. So I never felt like there was anything I couldn't do growing up. And then I guess I don't know why, but I kind of take the approach of just throwing myself off the deep end in whatever I was going to do. Like I would walk into rooms that I had no business being in, saying, fuck it, let's see what happens. And if it goes really well, awesome. And if it doesn't, like what's the worst that could happen? Even though with certain job prospects, the worst that could have happened probably could have not been great, but fortunately it went pretty well.
that's super cool. But it's a healthy relationship with failure. It's a it's a pseudo psychological relationship with an acronym that I just learned not too long ago. FAFO, fuck around and find out. And it's just kind of like, I mean, Kayti, there's rejection, there's failure, there's frustration, there's injury, there's, like we talked briefly about, there's outcome focus versus process focus. What was it about, you specifically mentioned your father, what was it about your relationship with him that he helped teach you that, like, hey, if you put in the work, you do that consistently over the course of time, like you're going to learn, you're going to figure it out, and there's going to be some sort of positive outcome, even if it doesn't align with your premeditated expectations.
I think he hugely led by example, which was really spectacular. I'm so lucky for that. I know not all people have parents that have done that for them. So he led by example to the nth degree in every single capacity of his life. Integrity was and is paramount for him. But I think, oh gosh, I could talk about him for hours because he's such an incredible human being. He was ruthlessly honest with me growing up,
Mm.
which, like, if I asked, hey, can I go out on Friday night? He'd say, sure, you have to be home by this time. And I'm like, well, why? Everyone gets home 2 hours later. And he's like, nothing good happens after midnight. This is why. These are the things that can happen. And he was so ruthlessly honest with me about how doing this will result in this, that I feel like my eyes were really opened into seeing um, cause and effect. So I really saw other people's consequences. And he would be like, I made this mistake growing up and this mistake growing up. And I'd be like, okay, so if I don't do that, I can skip the shitty process and the learning process and jump over to here. And I feel like I learned a lot quicker that if you put in the effort to something, it'll directly correlate to what the outcome will be, at least in the capacity. Like maybe you don't win the race, but you're doing pretty well and you're on the trajectory that you want.
Expediting your pursuit of success by learning from other people's mistakes rather than you making them.
Exactly.
That's super cool. What was your relationship like with your mom?
Um, oh goodness. She is a wonderful human being in a lot of ways. She is not what I want to be in a lot of
Mm.
ways. So, I mean, it sucks to say, but she taught me a lot about how I didn't want to approach life.
Mm.
And I mean, hard lessons to learn, but really great lessons to learn. Like, I'm in a weird way grateful for that,
I
that I
mean, people
learned.
wonder all the time, like, what do I want? It's like, you know what's almost more important than what you want is actually what you don't want. And being very clear and having a picture painted of the energy, the outcomes, like tangible imagery around, hey, these are the things I do want, these are things I don't want. Otherwise, you end up playing in the land of comfortable complacency of just like trying out all these different things, i.e., like general education in early college to try to be like, hey, these are a bunch of different things that you're supposed to try as a freshman. Cool, figure out what you want. And then there's the exception to the rule. It sounds like yourself, you're like, yeah, I kind of know what I want already. Like, let's cut the bullshit and just like fast forward to the things that are going to light my heart on fire so I can kind of do the fast track. What are your thoughts on some of that? Like, really owning what you don't want in pursuit
Oh,
of you.
I own what I don't want probably too aggressively. um,
Hmm.
but I mean, I love owning what you don't want because that tells me that you are confident and secure in who you are as a person and what you want for your life and for your future. So if you see something or a behavior, you're like, I don't want anything to do with that. Removing that from your life is only going to help you. It's going to help align you further with who you are and what you do want. And I guess the highest purpose that you could have for yourself in your life. As soon as you have something you don't want or that doesn't resonate or kind of sits weird in your system, then you're getting out of alignment, you're screwing up your vibration, and you're going to set yourself back almost in ways,
Hmm.
because you're not taking steps in the trajectory of what's, I guess, best for your highest self.
Yeah, totally. Katie, what's coming to mind for me in chatting with you organically like this is this concept of contrast, of like yin to yang, light with dark, hot with cold, sauna and ice, masculine and feminine. We obviously we're discussing a little bit of your upbringing with your parents and how you kind of developed this ideology, this mindset, this energy, and this pursuit towards peak expression. And I talk about it often on the podcast. Sophia Bush was once asked, like, hey, like, when you're a high performing woman, people are like, hey, you're crushing it in the career and you're CEO, you're boss bitch or whatever, people want to categorize it as. And they're like, hold on, why don't you have a family? Why don't you have kids or these things over here? And the same question gets asked when somebody's in the home. They're like, hey, you're an amazing mom. You've raised this incredible family. What about a career orientation? And she goes, why can't I do both? And I'm very much in alignment with that of like, hey, you can be career and you can be playful. You can be yin, you can be yang. You're not like you're Katie. You're not this or that. But the world wants to like compartmentalize human beings and put you in a box or a category, which I don't agree with. I love deconstructing boundaries and just kind of being fucking disruptive as often as possible. And you align with that. And so, like, when I kind of mention some of these ideologies, I'm speaking a little bit in the clouds, but I think you can pick up what I'm putting down here. I'm curious some of your thoughts on that because the world just wants to label, and I'm just like, that's not that. Humans are complex. It's not like that.
It's interesting you bring that up because for the last year, year and a half, I feel like I've had a huge journey with respect to my identity. And I spent so long competing and doing all these things and getting degrees and whatnot that it was almost like winning, winning, winning. And then you kind of get stuck in this mindset that if you're not winning, you're failing, even though that's absolutely not true because the biggest thing is just the effort that you put in. And I've really, I guess, taken the time to kind of go through the journey of realizing that my identity isn't anything just beyond, like what you said, Katie. Like, I am not these specific things. Like, they are just things that I do and that I enjoy, but they're things that I do. If I lose a case or lose a race or something, it's not going to change who I am as a person, like what my soul is. That stays the same, that resonates. Like, it just is a thing that happened. It's just an experience.
They're experiences and data points that help you learn. And without being enrolled in the process and active participation, you're not who you are now. So I would argue it's not about the outcome. It's about who you become in the pursuit of doing these seemingly challenging things. And all of these degrees or letters after your name or experiences are tools. And when you look at a workbench and you just have access to a flathead screwdriver, you're going to struggle when you need to hammer or when you need to saw or when you need a Phillips head. So it's like you're adding tools to the toolbox. And now being a business owner and very actively enrolled into the entrepreneurship journey, it's just like when I interview people, quite frankly, I don't actually give a fuck what degrees they have. It's like, who are you as a human being? Like, do you have conflict resolution? Can you talk through things? Can you actively communicate and use different analogies to meet people where they're at? Are you patient? Can you be adaptable? Like all of these different skills and drills and qualities actually make up a really good teammate. And when you look at basketball, when you look at your sport, and when you compete in high rocks a little bit and things that you've done in the past, I don't care the resume of somebody. Those things are great, but it's just like I'm not judging you based on that. It's just a reference point. It's a tool of like, okay, cool, you've done some things. Like maybe it creates a little bit of credibility. But it's like, who are you now? Because those things aren't necessarily you now. They maybe helped make who you are now. But like you're you. You're not these past mistakes or these future grievances or anxieties. You're you. And sometimes I think the human mind has a hard time like grasping that.
Absolutely. Myself included. I go to therapy for this reason to talk through these things and work through all of these fun little nuances that get caught up in your head that are almost like self sabotage.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it's an ongoing process to work through for sure.
I want to pull it up here. You had an incredible caption that I think kind of summarizes you really well. I loved it. There we go. This is on your Instagram page. I highly recommend for people listening to check out Kayti Simonson on Instagram. You're very well thought, which I appreciate. And I know everybody else like wants the quick little like, hey, give me the picture, give me the highlight reel or whatever. Like I love captions. I think words really matter. I think writing fills the gaps within our thinking, and I think taking the time to put something in there, like I know it gives the picture some context. And yeah, I just want to share this with people. You shared this a few weeks ago. I've been thinking a lot lately about why should we make the effort to work through our issues and heal I don't think it's so we can become better at handling difficult things that come up. I think it's so we can become better at embracing wonderful things that come up. If we can teach ourselves to not see life through a lens of past hardships or trauma, we allow ourselves to enjoy the incredible things that come into our lives without second guessing them or sabotaging them. Because this has taken me a hot minute to come to terms with. The past doesn't equal the future. And that very much aligns with kind of what we're talking about here, where sometimes we allow the past to kind of bleed forward. But in reality, it's like every moment is an opportunity to begin again. How did you come to terms to kind of learn that every moment's kind of a blank canvas? And what kind of was occurring for you to write such a beautiful passage like that?
The last month, 6 weeks, I've had a lot of really exciting things come up, exciting opportunities that'll be take place over the next 6 months. And I felt almost an anxiety from it. Not that I couldn't handle the capacity or take on these things, but just it almost felt like I was waiting for something bad to happen or for the other shoe to drop, because I've had good things happen in the past and then something bad happens, not necessarily related or perhaps related. And so I was kind of in my head like, oh God, this is all so good. All these exciting things. I've been working so hard. They're coming to fruition. Something bad, like it can't all just be good. And then I realized, oh, just because something shitty happened in the past or frustrating happened in the past doesn't mean that's going to happen now. I can release that and let it go and just be excited for what's taking place in my life and appreciate it and enjoy the ride rather than being like, oh God, everything has to go perfectly, because nothing ever goes perfectly.
I think it's a mature perspective to know that like this too shall pass, but simultaneously, it sounds like you're an amazing problem solver. When we're constantly anticipating problems, we're not anticipating miracles. We're not anticipating various forms of love. We're not actually in the now because our nervous system's kind of in this fight or flight response of like trying to peek around that next corner rather than like, hey, let's just be on the fucking straightaway right now. You can be aware that there's something there and you can, be hyper vigilant to try to anticipate. But if we're like so much there, like we trip on the speed bump right here. And I don't know, it's easy to talk about. It's very cliche on a podcast, but like, hey, do this, not this. But living that is not really the same thing, especially as an athlete, as a lawyer. I mean, you're managing people, you're managing travel, you're managing time zones, you're managing your body, you're managing your relationship with other people and food and all these different things, lack of sleep, inflammatory markers. Like everything's not just this beautiful linear forward progression that creates clarity, and everything is just like step one, step two, step three, step four, the way our education system kind of advocates. It's like there's nuance and clusterfuckness, and so much of this is this. And finding a state of calm and zen in pursuit of the thing, and then realizing like, yeah, it's like I talked to somebody that summited Everest, and they're like, dude, like we were there for like 10 minutes, took some photos. It was like windy as fuck, and it was cool, but like it wasn't really the thing. The thing was like navigating the anxiety and nausea during certain spots. It was like sleeping in certain spots and sharing food with other people and figuring out the cramping and are we going to continue on? Are we going to take a day off based on weather conditions? Like the entire story was the journey. They were literally at the summit for a hop, skip, and a jump. It like was a boom, and it's like, okay, you're gone. But we romanticize like, oh, we made it, and if you don't make it, it's like it fucks up the story, and it's like I don't know if that's true. I push back against that for sure. So as I kind of go on my pseudo rant over here, what's kind of coming up for you?
I mean, oh God, it just resonates so well. There was a number of races, maybe for like a year. I was going through a lot mentally and emotionally. And I feel like because I'm transitioning or was transitioning from being a sprinter into an endurance runner, um, I ran from a place of fear for a lot of my races. And it's only been recently in coming to terms with I can only control so much. And if I'm not enjoying it, what's the point? But in running from that place of fear and kind of fearing that unknown and being so outcome focused, if the outcome isn't spectacular, whatever it is, then the whole thing was a waste. But I've realized recently that sometimes doing it afraid is the biggest win you could ever have,
Mhm.
because oh my god, there's so many scary things that we take on as challenges, but that's kind of the whole point. And now I'm like, man, I did it afraid and I still did it. Like I'm proud of myself for that. Whereas I used to be very hard on myself for that.
Yeah. That's been one of my favorite lines as I jumped into the realm of just like taking a leap into entrepreneurship is you're like a trailblazer. You have this machete and you're carving a path. You don't really know where it's going. And then you're like trying to have people jump on the mission with you. And like, it's awesome, but it's scary as fuck. And then I just got to the point of like, I heard Alex Hermosi say it once like, the best choice is the one that gives you the best story, gives you the best plot. And that line, just like, do it scared, continually keeps coming up. And it relates to another beautiful caption that you wrote, which is this past year, I asked myself countlessly, what would you do if you weren't scared? Whether it was the direction for my life, which challenges to chase, navigating difficult situations, facing my demons, being vulnerable, taking a leap of faith, asking this sometimes exciting, sometimes hard question always showed me what to do. The next step was choosing to be brave. 2024 was my year for relentless bravery in every aspect of my life. And damn, there were moments that were terrifying or excruciating, but there were also so many moments of unadulterated joy that wouldn't have occurred had I not chosen to be brave and fight for myself and for my future and for what and who I care about. I'm going to bookmark it right there. And like, what's so true is that if you don't ask, the answer is always no. If you don't go for it, like the regret is almost worse than the pain. And
It
you
is
might
worse.
experience some pain, but you're also going to experience like this magic that you may or may not have anticipated existing. So, what kind of comes to mind when you took that leap and made that decision in 2024 of like, I'm going to do it scared and I'm going to do the fucking thing?
I mean, if I hadn't done so many things scared, I wouldn't be where I am. I wouldn't be doing the things that I'm doing and achieving the success that I am. I feel like if you, even if you're scared, if you're making a decision and doing something from a place of love, self love, love for something you're doing, then no matter what the outcome is, it's going to keep you in alignment for like the best things that can come, even if the result for one little thing doesn't work out. So when I was doing all these things scared, I was showing up for races scared. But I'm like, you know what? At some point, like whether I'm winning or losing, this is going to be good for me as a person, my growth as a human being, and doing other things scared, like saying no to certain relationships or friendships, saying no to certain opportunities. Like it's hard to say no. I find to a lot of things, um, especially if you not necessarily people please, but if you want to just have cohesiveness and just like it's almost like taking the easy road is just to say yes. And saying no, I find, is where you really find yourself and your courage and your conviction that allows you to be able to say yes to the right things and do those things with courage because you already had the courage to say no to what wasn't working.
Yeah. I really appreciate your mindset because so many people are craving, like, what's the answer? What do I want? Like, where am I going? But going back to what I alluded to before, like, what do I not want? What should I say no to? And one of my favorite lines is if it's not a fuck yeah, then it's a no. And then like you don't just like have the ability to make that decision right away. It very much is like, hey, when I spend time with those people, how do I feel? What's my heart center? What's my soul's whisper? What's kind of coming up? Am I igniting and kind of getting this little pep in my step where I really want to lean in? Or am I like, counting the hours instead of making the hours count, and kind of leaning back a little bit of like, man, this doesn't feel good. This feels like a waste of time. I've outgrown these people. And it's tough because that comes with a grieving piece of like, maybe these people are a part of your life for a certain time. Maybe there are memories or experiences that are really good, but then you realize that like they're kind of stuck. And you alluded to like therapy. Anybody willing to go to therapy, like they've got a high five and a hug from me, because it's like, it's deconstructing you. It's looking at yourself in a mirror and being like, you know what? I don't have this all figured out. I need this third person perspective to kind of talk through things and deconstruct and untangle my own bullshit so I can unlock levels of perspective to pursue my peak expression. And sometimes that comes with cutting the cord of relationships, experiences, jobs, ideologies, stories that kind of lived in our past. And I think you've done a great job of that in the way you articulate it in your captions and your tone, and how you're just like, man, if it's not a fuck yeah, it's a no. Get the fuck out. Not that I dislike you. I'm thankful and appreciative for you, but I don't have time for that anymore. Time to move on.
I mean, I kind of have this attitude that if someone isn't helping you grow and be the best version of yourself, then they're hurting. I don't think that you can really have a neutral.
Hmm. I like the pause there just because I want to let that sink in for people for sure. Like, and it aligns with the cliche statement, like you're either growing or you're dying. Like neutrality is like, maybe it's a pause, maybe it's a couple days, but in reality, it's stagnation. And, stagnation's kind of the enemy in most things, because momentum like keeps that forward progress. Same reason like most people, especially in mine and your shoes, hate taking like a full rest day. Like, can I move? Can I go to a yoga class? Can I do some active mobility? Can I get a massage? Can I do something that moves the needle in the right direction? Because I want to keep this momentum. I know if I stop, then I'm going to have to reconquer that inner bitch on Monday.
That's it's so funny you say that, because I used to abhor rest days and slowing down and resting. I'm like, if I have time to be doing something productive, I want to be doing it.
Mm-hmm.
But I've learned that in order to keep my nervous system regulated, I need to rest and I need to chill in silence and I need to just make that time. Otherwise, I find it's too easy to fall into the going 100 miles an hour constantly.
Mm-hmm.
And then all of a sudden, you're forced to take a rest because your body's like, excuse me, you've been going 100 miles an hour for a year. Like, you need
Yep.
to chill for a hot second.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that was an annoying realization.
It's hard, especially when you're a go-getter, because our world tells us more is better. And then maturity tells us a field of rest brings a bountiful crop, like minimal viable dose. What's the least I can do physically to maximize my return on investment mentally, emotionally, and physically? You know, this beautiful talk, we talked about it loosely offline, but if people log into your Instagram, you can go through the link passage, and you have a really great speech where you compare and contrast one phase of life, which is all gas, no brakes, 100 miles an hour, barely fitting in time for anything, but kind of checking the boxes on performance, which eventually leads to burnout. And then type 2 life is, checking all the boxes on performance, but like sitting down for a meal, not constantly distracting yourself by listening to Huberman podcasts and Alex Hormozy and all the things, thinking like, oh yeah, every second of every day needs to be filled with stuff to add. Like, we're not in an information, you know, underload within our world, for lack of a better word. Like, we have so much information and we're trying our best to take so much action, but is it better? I don't know. And so to create clarity and context for our listeners, can you share a little bit of that speech that you gave? It was so eloquent, so beautiful. And we'll start with type 1 life and then go to type 2 life.
The Trident family taught me something really important this last year, that we are all a bundle of stories, both good, bad, and everything in between. All of their cold brews remind their customers that they are part of something bigger than themselves. I start my day with the Sweet Cream Cold Brew as I am prepping my mind and body for fitness, service, coaching, and podcasting. With various locations in San Diego, they offer over 14 nitro cold brews and a variety of specialty drinks. You can find the perfect brew and pair it with one of their treats from the Keto Bakery. You can check them out over at tridentcoffee.com and use code ALLSMITH to take your coffee experience to the next level.
Yeah, absolutely. So, for a little context for the listeners, I ran track at a very high level for 10 years. I was an NCAA 400 hurdler. I also played soccer in grad school, law school, and my master's of laws. I did my schooling abroad, so I was all over the place. I was in Michigan, Florida, and England.
Mm.
And
Ted Lasso, baby.
pardon me?
Ted Lasso.
Yeah, right. And so I didn't stop. I was going 100 miles an hour, literally constantly. Um, Between the athletics, I also competed in CrossFit at a high level. If there was something to do or compete in while getting degrees, I was doing it. And part of, some just difficult experiences in life contributed to this, but I guess, suppressing my emotions because I had so many things to do and to do at a high level that having the opportunity to be upset about something or take time to rest just didn't seem viable. And it was a nuisance. It was a pain because I was like, I have to do all these things. I want to do well. I want to be focused. So being upset about something that just happened is inconvenient. So I suppressed so many emotions, and it got to the point that I was really disconnected from my body. I was still doing all the things and doing well at them, but my nervous system was dysregulated. I was in a state of hypervigilance. I was in survival mode. And eventually I hit a brick wall. I was about 30 and I hit that wall so hard that my teeth sung. And I realized something has to change. This isn't sustainable. This isn't okay. Like I feel something in my body that just needs to be released, but I don't even know what that is. So through a lot of self-reflection, a lot of therapy, a lot of looking in the mirror and saying, what am I responsible for with respect to my own suffering? Like, how am I contributing to my suffering? I was able to, and it's still, still an ongoing process, really learn how to feel emotions again and figure out what it is to have a regulated nervous system and to be in a healthy relationship with doing all of these very difficult but very exciting things where I get to remind myself I get to do these things. I don't have to do these things. So it's been a process, but I feel like with respect to this speech, approach one is going 100 miles an hour. You fill every single minute of your time with something, because if you are too tired or too busy, you don't have time or energy to feel anything that might be uncomfortable. You don't have time to sit in discomfort, and it's exhausting. And approach two is when discomfort comes up, you actually lean into it and you sit in it. You still do all the things you're doing, but you acknowledge, hey, maybe I feel anxiety today. Maybe I feel sadness today. And you kind of just let it hang out with you as you go through your life. And it's not some terrifying thing. It just is what it is.
Mm-hmm. What I'm hearing is that you accumulated a stack of evidence for working out. And working out gave you validation and love. And working out, I don't just mean in CrossFit and High Rocks and soccer and track and field. I also mean like performance based in academia and in your law pursuits. It's external. And I think you came to realize that like I'm really good at working out, but not good at working in. And sitting with emotions and things like I don't know, there's a double-edged sword there, right? Like you can do too much of that where you get so much into your feelings or so much into this psychosomatic approach that it becomes paralysis by analysis. And then, if you want to change your feelings, you can't just like listen to a podcast or read a book. Like typically you need to take action that will then change your nervous system. And I know like you talk often like, hey, work-life balance isn't really real. But maybe maybe the dosage of some of these things is real. Like, if I'm making something and I add way too much salt, like you're gonna fucking know that the dosage was off of salt. Or if I add too much of a certain spice, like it's gonna throw the profile off in relation to the palate. So it sounds to me that rode the wave as long as you could. And you're like, hey, the number one line in entrepreneurship is, hey, find what works and do more of it. And it worked for you for a very long time to get from A to B. But then you realized from a maturity standpoint, the next evolution of your life, that you wanted to go from B to C. And you kept trying to fit the square peg in the round hole, doing it the same way you did from A to B. And you realize, oh, wow, I hit a brick wall. This isn't fucking working anymore. I need to change the dosage. Now I need to start working in a little bit more, which maybe you didn't need that when you were younger. And so I would argue that, like, I don't know, maybe masking the emotions and burying them down for a really long time, it works really well until it doesn't work. And then you take that self-reflection, you're like, all right, like, let's find a new path forward. But not everybody does that. They sit there and they ruminate and they get stuck in this like cyclical rat race. And they never really find a way out. What was the disruptive moment where you're like, hey, I need to move on? Was it a relationship? Was it an injury? Was it loss of a loved one? Was it decrease in performance? Was it psychological, hormonal? Like, pain seems to be the number one thing that gets people to change. What got you to change being such a high performer?
It the catalyst was a breakup. It wasn't a super long relationship. It was like 6 months. And it was very intense very quickly. And it ended very quickly. And I was devastated. And at the time, I thought I was devastated because of the loss of this relationship and the future that I thought was coming from it and all of that. And I, for so long, had always taken responsibility, probably in a bad way, that if something bad was happening, like in a relationship or friendship or something, I was like, well, it's my fault, so I need to do whatever I can to fix it. But I think it was a coping mechanism, because I'm like, if I can take responsibility for fixing it, then I can soothe my nervous system, even though that doesn't actually work. And so I realized, I don't know how, but I was like, something just isn't working. Like, I am not okay. And after a lot of reflection, a lot of therapy, reading so many books and journaling, I realized that I wasn't actually distraught about the breakup. I had 15, 20 years of unprocessed trauma that had finally come up to its wall and the dam broke. And so everything I was feeling wasn't for that breakup, it was for the culmination of trauma that I hadn't worked through.
Mm.
So my body was finally like, hey, I'm going to hit you on the head now. And I was like, oh, maybe I should listen this time.
Mm-hmm. No, I really appreciate you sharing that. Breakups are tough. I went through a horrific one. And at the time it was so devastating, losing a tribe, losing friendships, losing an identity. And what I'm curious about, like, you self-sabotage of like, oh man, I put all this time and energy into this thing. And then the world tells you, more women than men, which is unfair, but scientifically it's just tough. With this thing called the biological clock. Then you start getting pressured in that. And there's so much shit that comes into dating culture, performance culture, this study, that study. How do we know what to trust, who to trust? And then it just becomes this convoluted, like, psychological chemical shitstorm. And you're just like, I'm fucking trying my best. What kind of came up for you? You navigated that. You learned a lot from that. And it sounds to me that, like, repressing a lot of those emotions eventually just like boiled over. And you're like, all right, I gotta sit in this. I gotta deal with this. But then also, to play devil's advocate, some of those things are probably great catalysts to make you a better performer and pursue things and press a little bit harder and maybe have a stubborn relationship with performance of like, hey, I'm going to prove them wrong. I'm going to be so good they can't ignore me. So it's like it did good as well. So it's like I never really label things as like good or bad. It is, they are.
I totally agree. And it's not, when I talk about these things, it's not that I have regrets for how my life, what my journey looked like or how I approached things. Everything that I was doing was, whether I realized it or not, for my highest good at that time.
Mm-hmm.
So my body, my mind, whatever was happening, how I was approaching things, that was my, I guess, almost subconscious, doing what it could to protect me and keep me functioning and keep me achieving all these really great things. So, like you said, it's not that they were good or bad; they just were. And when I think about these things now, when I think about something being good or bad or frustrating, or like if a circumstance comes up and like someone pisses you off or whatever, it's like, do I need to attach to this? Do I need to label it as good or bad? Do I need to label it as frustrating or anything? I don't need to actually attach to it. I can just let it be, rather than internalizing it. And I think that's been a really big shift, because I look at my past and I'm like, man, there was a lot of very challenging things, but you know what? It led me to here. And if they didn't go how they did, would I be here? I probably not. And I really like here. Here is really awesome.
Yeah, life didn't happen to you; it happened for you.
Exactly.
And I want to unpack that a little further, but I'll also say, like, I don't know if you went through this, but through my breakup, I was like you. I was journaling, I was reading books, I was doing all the things. But what I came to realize is that I didn't like hanging out with me. I didn't like who I'd become in pursuit of peak expression in basketball and CrossFit and coaching and leadership and all the things. It was actually really hard for me to just be by myself. I wanted to throw in the earbuds. I wanted to go do something physical. I wanted to get on the pull-up bar. I wanted to go for a run. I want to be in nature. And what was so cool was in that, like, it was about 18 months for me. I like dated myself. I learned that, like, oh wow, like, what do I actually like? Was I doing those things because I felt like those people would like me if I participated in the thing that they like? Like, everything was a constant sacrifice, and I ended up abandoning me. And so, like, in that process, I was like, whoa, like, if people want to come hang out, cool. If people want to join my coaching business, cool. If people want to hop on the podcast, cool. But, like, I can do it by myself too. Not that I'm like, all me, everything, da, da, da. It's like, I need help. I'm going to ask for help. It's not like toxic masculinity, but I was like, whoa, like, I actually really like taking myself to dinner. I really like going on that hike by myself. I don't have to listen to everybody else's agenda. And if people want to jump on board and kind of participate and play, like, dope. But it became less about attachment and more of what I describe as playful perspective architecture. And I was just like, whoa, this is fucking dope. And all of a sudden it became less about chasing the girl, chasing the business, chasing the thing, and more about like attracting. And right around that time, my mom was battling cancer. She hadn't passed yet. And we had this really deep connection around hummingbirds. So we put like 5 or 6 hummingbird feeders in the back. She had like roses and things everywhere. And her backyard was like a freeway for hummingbirds. And one day, like, she wasn't feeling her best after the chemo. We were just kind of like bullshit and hanging out in the sun. And she was like, Bryce, I think the backyard is like an analogy for life. Like, if you understand how to create an experience and an energy and be the person and do the self work and train consistently, treat people appropriately, operate from a place of love, try to do the next right thing, be more interested than interesting, truly fucking listen, not just wait for people to shut up so you can word vomit. She's like, Bryce, like, it's kind of like the hummingbirds. If you chase a hummingbird, it's going to fly away. But if you create the ambiance and the safety and the hummingbird feeders and the roses, they're going to feel safe to come play in your arena. She was like, whether it's relationships, whether it's adventure, whether it's workflow, whether it's art, whether it's podcast. She was like, at the end of my life, I think that's the key to living a beautiful life. I was like, whoa, that was dope. Like, I'm going to pay that forward as often as I can. Does that align with you, though? Like, as far as when you went through some of these traumatic experiences, you mentioned the journal, you mentioned the different things that made you, your energetic cord changed. Like, even though we're remote, like right now, there's an energetic cord. Like, I feel you, you feel me. And it's like, you talked about, hey, when these bad things happen, I don't actually have to like put a sticky or a weight vest on myself or get in that car and let it be on me It's like I can acknowledge it and say, hey, what's up? I see you. I'm going to cut that cord. You can move on. Now you're not adding value in my life. But you can do the same thing the other way of like, hey, that's actually dope. That's a patch on my weight vest. I'm going to add that to my energetic cord and kind of play with that and pay it forward. As you've kind of navigated these things, how have you learned to really love self and then pick and choose between like, hey, what's allowed to stick on my being and what do I choose to let go of?
What's made it possible to do that, and I think do that well, is now when I'm talking to someone or an opportunity is presented or literally anything comes up, I pause for a minute and I ask myself, how does this feel? How does this feel within me? And your body will tell you everything. And if something comes up and your body's like, ooh, I kind of don't like this, I'm like, no, it's just no. I don't need to have an
Mm,
explanation. I don't need to have an explanation for myself or for anything else. I just trust that it's a no because energetically it just doesn't sit right. But if something comes up, and even if it seems a little bit scary, but I'm like, oh, like this is kind of invigorating, or this is like giving me a little like pep. I'm like, oh, yeah, absolutely. And like you said, with our energetic frequencies, even though we're not sitting across from each other physically, we can still feel that because I think that energy connects everything. It literally is everything, connects everything. So if you can get comfortable and in tune with your body and feel whatever energetic shifts are coming from a person, place, situation, anything, it makes it really easy to be like, yep, absolutely, fuck no, hard pass.
mm-hmm. And what's so interesting too is I'll try to create a label around this to create transparency and context for people. But you think about like masculine and feminine energy. When I bring up your father, your eyebrows perk, you light up. And it sounds to me like a lot of the do when you think about masculinity, it's provide, protect, it's get shit done at all costs, all gas, no brakes, just go do the thing. We'll talk about the feelings later. Feminine energy is more so getting in tune with flow. It's understanding, how does this make me feel? Is this the right thing? Is this not the right thing? It's a little bit more patient. It has an artistic aesthetic to it that's not necessarily just like caveman eating steak with hands. It's like, no, let's create a plate that like kind of looks good and like let's chop it up appropriately. Like let's create an ambiance. Let's maybe put some music in the background. Like you need both. You can't be one or the other. And it sounds to me that like you were almost searching for that feminine energy. And then you later found it in the reality of like, hey, I love my mom. I love so many different things about her. I don't want to pursue to necessarily be her, and that's okay. But I still need like her spice and her dosage in my life in order to like blossom into the full Katie that I'm capable of becoming. It's just an interesting observation that's kind of like floated to the surface for me based on our conversation so far.
I think it's a really great observation because I think I was in my masculine energy so significantly for so many years because I felt like I had to be,
Mm-hmm.
and maybe I did have to be. Maybe that was part of surviving certain things that I've survived. But yeah, that feminine energy now is, at least for me, maybe it's not necessarily feminine energy, but when something feels like I need to force it or I need to like nudge it or push it a little bit, that is a huge indication where I'm like, whoa, stop, because I shouldn't have to force anything. I shouldn't have to chase anything. Just let it flow. Whatever flows is going to flow, whether I try and impede it or not. So if I just let things move how they move, what's meant for me is going to come to me, and what's not will pass me by. And that's how it's supposed to be. And that's okay. And maybe that is a feminine energy that I've had to kind of learn and figure out how to embody, but it's like the yin and yang that you said earlier, having that duality and figuring out, okay, this is when I embrace my masculine energy. I be tough. I do the things, um, like whatever it is that it's almost like you're a protector or like a warrior. And I very much would consider myself a warrior. I feel like I have that in my blood. Maybe it's the Viking history. I don't know. But to be able to have that and be like, I am a warrior, but I can soften when it's time to soften and embrace that and realize that vulnerability is also its own type of strength. Finding that duality has been so incredible and also a source of, I think, trust within myself, if that makes sense.
No, I love the way you describe that because, I mean, think about like dancing, right? Like a man is usually a little bit stiffer, right? Like they carry a little bit more of like a linear movement pattern, right? Think CrossFit, think, musculature. Women have that flow. They have the lateral motion, they have a cyclical motion, they have rotation. And it's like when you combine those two forces, now it's like you can kind of squeeze through tighter spots. You can kind of make this work instead of just like it has to be this way. And I don't know if I'm painting that picture exactly appropriate, but it's like looking at a painting and everything is all like fucking right angles. Like that eventually gets kind of like boring. Like you want some like fuck around and flow and just like scratch it up and just have some like context and things that are in the forefront, things that kind of fade out, darker, lighter, change up the colors. I mean, you look at the color scheme of most dudes, it's like grays, earth tones, blacks, whites. Women integrate like vibrance. And I think when we think about that in relation to our headspace and how we operate in the human experience, like, I don't know, imagine like walking into a courtroom or doing things in law, and it's like every day you just wore just a black suit. It's like, okay, there's something cool about that if your personality has some vibrance, but it's also just kind of like it's boring, it's vanilla. And then all of a sudden, some days you walk in and you're wearing peach. Some days you're wearing something else. And something about that adds literally color to the human experience. And if we think about that as far as energy, as far as performance, as far as coaching people, as far as really resonating with the energies of different people, I don't know, it adds something that's like flavorful and fun and exciting. And it does something to the human experience that I definitely think you'll align with this, that like there's something to the human experience that can't necessarily be seen or heard or really understood. It must be felt.
Yes. Oh my God. Yes, absolutely.
It's weird. I don't know how to put words to it though.
Uh, I think that, I mean, like okay, so we all have 1 billion pictures on our camera roll, right? And you'll like, so for whatever, be scrolling through looking for a picture, but then you'll like stop and see a different picture and you'll open it up and it'll take you back to a place and time that you were. And you're not so stoked to see the picture, but you feel whatever you felt when you were at that time. You're like, oh, awesome. And I think it's almost like that. Like you can't articulate it. You just know that this felt great. It's like when you're sitting outside by a campfire with your loved ones and there's like a really great song playing in the background and the sun is setting and it's just chill and everyone's laughing, having a good time. You're like, this feels so great. Like
Hmm.
it's not that we're doing anything special. It's just like this just feels wonderful.
Yeah. I love the campfire analogy. That's pretty cool. Campfires are dope. You've talked about this a little bit. What do you believe is the root of most modern suffering? And how do you think we can begin to shift that in people?
Oh boy. I think two things. One, people not being honest with themselves.
Hmm.
I think it's very, very easy to lie to ourselves about what we like, what we don't like, what we're okay with, especially what we're okay with, tolerating behavior that isn't necessarily bad, but doesn't align with our values. And I think the other thing is social media. It
Yeah.
just, everything's a comparison. Everything's, are you here? Are you there? Are you doing this? Is this being posted? Does that look good enough? Is that picture awesome? Are you at the top of the list for this? Like the constant comparison or need to be included, I think is exhausting and it takes away from the actual important things in life, which social media has nothing to do with.
Yeah. I think that's really true. Like there's a couple things that come to mind there. One of which is Do more things that make you forget to check your phone. I think that's kind of fun. And the other thing that comes to mind, I think this is from Mel Robbins, but it's like we spend so much time trying to get attention and validation from strangers. It's like, I don't know, like my dad talked about before he passed away, ABD, always be dating. He didn't mean like dating girls and stuff like that. He meant like always foster deep, meaningful relationships. You think of somebody, shoot him a text or give him a call. And what's interesting to me is just like social media feels like a toxic neighborhood where everybody's like peeking from behind the blinds. They're like, let me watch their story. Let me see what's going on. Are they successful? Should I judge them? Should I compliment them? Should I talk shit about them? Like, my life's kind of boring, so I'm going to add vibrance by like integrating this other stuff that is relatively toxic, but feels like I should participate. I don't know. It's fucking weird to me that like so many people look at the stories. It's like, why don't you ever say what's up? Like, how come you never comment on a post? Why is it only like peeping, tomming? I don't know. It's an interesting psychology that what are your thoughts on some of that?
I completely agree. It's so bizarre. Like you'll have people that look at everything you're doing but never actually interact with you. I mean, which is fine. Like that's cool. I just like even if it's social media is generally a highlight reel, right? Like you're not
Mhm.
posting like yourself crying after therapy. I mean, or maybe you are and you're one of those people that really shares everything. But for the most part, it's curated. Like how many accounts are truly honest and vulnerable? It's it's not that it's to take your account and be completely transparent, honest, and vulnerable. It's not that it's necessarily a difficult thing to do, but it's if you are self-aware enough that you are wanting to live your life in accordance of your own terms and not for the validation of the world, you're not really going to be taking the time to do that because you just don't care. So like even with me, I try to be transparent and be like, hey, like this was hard, but like this is what I learned from it. So like it's not a sad fest versus like, oh, this was really awesome and it's all just highlights. I try and like really kind of have that middle ground. But I find that there's just such constant comparison to everyone, and you see someone do something half decent because they posted the best part of something. You're like, I suck now because I'm not doing that. And it's like a constant beating of people because they're comparing themselves to other things that they don't have any context for. You're seeing like this little snippet, but you don't
Mhm.
actually know like everything surrounding that situation. Maybe it was a really terrible day and like 1 minute of it was awesome. They post the 1 minute and you think they're living their dreams.
Yeah. So well said. And I definitely think too that like the middle ground is dope. I think like we talked about earlier, game recognized game. Like when people watch that stuff and they actually take the time for the caption, I'm like, dang, that person needs to be in my tribe. When it's just like kind of a cryptic one or two words, you're like, all right, like maybe I know that person, but if I don't, I'm like, I'm not that interested because it's just the tip of the iceberg. It's not really authentically sharing. And maybe that's okay too. Maybe that's their version of, hey, I want to kind of toss this thing out there, but I don't want to be a huge active participant because it's not good for my mental, physical, or emotional health, which is fair too. Social media is just like I feel like it's getting such a negative rap these days, but I mean, there's so many positive things too. Like I feel like I've almost curated my algorithm to follow very interesting people and thought leaders, but then also I love some of the quotes or the motivational speeches, or I mean, being the podcast space, I really do like to listen to the podcast snippets of authentic storytelling and just powwowing back and forth. I think you can kind of make it the way you want, but it's definitely something that takes time. It's something that not all of us want to put the time and energy into. And it's something that can be really freaking dangerous because it's not totally real. It's not totally authentic. And sometimes it skews the mind based on imagery, based on sound, based on, like you said, crying after therapy or something like that, which is very real. Now that's like weaponized against you. You're like, what? Like, why is vulnerability weaponized when you're lacking context? I'm simply sharing. And then people are like, oh, why'd you share that then? Like, if you didn't want pushback on, it's like, oh my gosh, like just let things be.
Maybe that's some of my struggle with social media, because like you just said, there's so many awesome things about it. Like I
Hmm.
learn something all the time, which is really cool. And there is awesome quotes that I've saved and that really resonated. Or there's videos of animals that make me really happy, or I get to share like fantasy, funny meme gift things back and forth with my friends because we read the same books. So like I do love social media for certain respects, but it's when people are like, I have an opinion and my opinion has to be heard. Why? Like, why are you, the person who has to state their opinion, attaching to whatever this person posted? Why are you attaching to it? Like, you don't need to attach to it. You don't like it. Who cares? You like it. Awesome. Like, just let it flow. It's like kind of, uh, I feel like people would be a lot happier if they stopped acting like seeing something that bothers them changes their life, rather than just letting it be whatever it is and carrying on with what's actually going on in their life, rather than some random person who's across the world that posted some video.
Yeah. I think the word that comes to mind is triggers, right? And I think back in the day, there was like a toughness, especially mine and your generation, where it's like we kind of started our lives without social media, without cell phones, without documenting everything. Where if you wanted to know where your friends were, you had to see which house had the bikes in front of it. And we were sprinting from the bathroom to try to get back out to the couch after commercials to see Saturday morning cartoons. And training was a privilege after homework and after chores were completed, and there's certain responsibility that comes. It wasn't like we were born and breeded to be Division 1 athletes right away. It's like, no, you earn the right to do those things. And the reason why things typically work out is because you've developed this character and this morale of, as Elon would say, I want to be useful. I want to contribute to the world. I want to do something that's going to be of value and impactful, not just I'm so special, like I'm just going to go take from the world and then, have this level of entitlement based on my talent and blah, blah, blah. But what's so interesting is, like you said, like opinions are just opinions. They don't have to trigger us. We can recognize them and be like, hey, like, I don't agree with that one thing. Cool. Like they do all these other things that are really dope. Like I'll just spend time and we can communicate on that. And I'll be, a fan of those things and those things. Like, I'll recognize that's just something I don't align with, but they have a story and they have experiences that I don't have. So I can't sit over here on my high horse and be judgmental about it. Like maybe when the time is right, I ask him about it, and I'm just more curious than judgmental, to echo Ted Lasso. But then there's also just like, maybe we don't find a common ground. That's okay too, because if you and I agree on fucking everything, the world doesn't move forward. Now it's just like, yeah, 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 yeah. That's not a fun podcast to listen to. That's not like a fun conversation. Like it's okay to disagree. It's okay for me to have this opinion, you to have that opinion. And then we just communicate as to why, and you create transparency and understanding as to just two unique perspectives. People can take that and do what they want with it. Right? My favorite line in healing is like, take what you need and leave the rest. You don't have to take it all, you know?
I love that. It's so true. That's something that I read a lot of books, and it's very hard for me to agree or like everything in one book, especially like the self-help whatever books. But I go through and I pick the pieces that I'm like, yes, this, and the rest of it I'm like, it's fine. Like it was fine, it's fine. But I really think that, and I would consider myself an opinionated person. I would consider myself someone who's very strong in their convictions. But even as such, I think that if there's someone who is completely like different views than me on whatever, or just different personality, I think that we can find common ground with anyone, damn near anyone,
Mm-hmm.
in some capacity, if we're willing to be a little bit vulnerable and a little bit curious. Like we may disagree on fundamentally 99% of the things, but there'll be something that there's a common ground. And whether that's just that every person ultimately just wants to love and be loved, if that's it, then that's still something significant.
Free is the way to be. Life beats us up a bit and causes some bumps and bruises, but that doesn't mean we have to stay on the sidelines. This is why we've partnered with Kinyan Labs. Get back to doing what you love with this incredible portable device designed to get you back in the game. Kinyan is on a mission to move people from pain to possible with their top-rated red light therapy and laser solution, which tackles inflammation along with muscle and joint pain quickly and effectively. What I love is that it's portable and rechargeable, making it easy to actually incorporate into my everyday life consistently. It's small and lightweight, so you can throw it in your gym bag or work bag, or even an overnighter. Kinyan's lasers and LED combo make this cutting-edge device extremely versatile for use with general aches and pains, as well as chronic back pain, arthritis, post-surgery recovery, endometriosis, and more. This has been an amazing tool keeping my elbows and knees pain-free for pressing, pulling, and squatting in the gym. Great tools like the Move Plus give me the freedom and flexibility to continue living life on my terms without limitations. There are a lot of reasons why over 15,000 people are using this device and rating it 4.7 stars and above. Head on over to kinyan.io and use code ALLSMITH at checkout to begin your pain-free journey.
Yeah. I like that you keep referencing love. Love is so special. I have it tattooed on me. It's one of my favorite words. And I had a famous poet on. His name's InQ. And he talked about, if you haven't seen it, type it into YouTube. It's called Fall in Love at 85. He's a famous poet, but he also has like a rap sense to him, which is pretty cool. He's from Santa Monica, California. And we had an amazing podcasting conversation, but something he talked about is love is a verb. It's not just a feeling. And love varies, right? Like the way you love your work is way different than you love your parents, way different than the way you love a pet, way different than you love your craft, different than you love yourself. But it's active. You must be an active participant. You must be enrolled in the process in order to love. What are your thoughts on that? Because you've referenced a couple times now that like people want to be here to love and be loved. But I don't know that everybody views it as a verb. Sometimes they're just like waiting for it to come. And like if you want something, like give what you're also trying to get. What are your thoughts on that?
I think that when we make decisions, we make them either from a place of fear or love.
Hmm.
And so when we make decisions from a place of love and we allow love to dictate our actions and our thoughts, then yeah, it's a verb because it's what you're putting out into the world. And when you are making decisions from a place of love, then I think you're also being your most authentic self because you're allowing yourself to be vulnerable, to be seen, to be exactly who you are without necessarily the ego coming into play. So when you love, your ego can't really be a part of it because love is something that's unconditional that you put out into the world, and your ego is what comes into the fear aspect. So I think if you can ask yourself and say, am I doing this? Is this decision, is whatever I'm doing, whether it's something super small or big, coming from a place of love, self-love, or giving love to other people or situations, or just a random act of kindness, then I think you realize that that is what elevates you and your life for the better, even if you're not like getting anything out of it. Because when you give love, it's not with the intention to receive anything, it's just to give. As soon as
Yeah.
you have the expectation to receive, that's where your ego's coming to play. And now that's actually a fear-based decision.
Yeah. So well said. You've definitely been around the block a few times in this world. And what I've developed a little itch that I want to scratch is this one's really tough. when you're working with someone, or you have a client or a friend or a family member, how do you discern between, hey, over here I want to hold space, and then over here I kind of want to fix or save you? That one's tough, right? And like, I love the question of like, hey, what do you need right now? Do you want advice? Do you want me to sit with you in it? But man, it's sometimes tough to tinker and push and pull between holding space and fixing or saving.
So I'm a problem solver. I
Me
always
too.
want to give advice and solve the problem, especially like, when you're in it and it's something like tumultuous and your heart's broken and you can't see the forest for the trees because you're in it. Um, if I see someone like that, I just want to be like, hey, do this, this, and this, and it'll help and it'll start making things better. But like when you're in it, you got to go through it. Um, I'll actually ask, do you want advice? Do you want me to listen? Do you want validation? What are you looking for me from me right now? And I'll straight up ask that. And usually it's a combination of a few of them. But so when I was in a state of survival, hypervigilance, all that, I felt that if I was able to control myself, situations, whatever, it would make it easier. It was like a coping mechanism. And now, like if I'm super stressed out, it's almost like a default. Like I want to try go back in to control anything just to give me some semblance of like the chaos isn't as chaotic. But I've realized that actually surrendering and letting go of trying to control anything, whether it's just helping a friend, is the healthiest thing I can do. So when I'm like, oh, I want to try and fix this, I realize that's me I care, I want to make it better, but I'm still also trying to control a little bit. So I'll give the best advice I can give if it's asked for. And at that point, it's like, you just got to let people go through their journey. Even when you see them, like the train is going towards the bridge is in the ocean or whatever. And now, like, what are they going to do? Sometimes people need to go off that cliff and learn the lessons from it, and you can't save them. You can't save anyone. You can help them if they want help. And that's, I
Mhm.
think, the biggest caveat is if someone doesn't want help, you can't help them at all. There's nothing you can do. You
I
just have
struggle
to,
with that one a lot,
yeah.
especially being in the fitness space. Like, you get these little glimmers of potential, and you're just like, oh man, like if I could just pull that out of you, like your life's going to be the way you want it to, based on our conversation on goals and alignment and all the things. But like you said, like sometimes you got to let the baby touch the stove to realize that you shouldn't touch the hot. And it's probably one of the most painful things we can do. But I don't know. I also think it's teaching us something around, hey, we got to let go of control. People need to learn some of these things. And then we can be there to support them. And rather than it be like an I told you so, it can be, like I said previously, curious, like, hey, what'd you learn from that? Oh, maybe we shouldn't touch the hot stove, or maybe we shouldn't climb to the top of that thing where we're potentially going to fall if the foundation's not strong to hold us. Like maybe we should take in some of those little bits of feedback as we're kind of tinkering or seeking edges, or as humans, we're gonna push boundaries a little bit, right? The human mind is conditioned to think like, hey, what can we get away with? And, that's probably why we see these integrations of things like Ozempic and semaglutide. It's like, can I take these things and not have to work out as much and still eat bad and still lose weight and look good? I don't know. Like, I saw the shaking of your head. I had to touch on that just to push your buttons a little bit. What comes to mind for you there?
It's outsourced discipline.
Yeah.
It's bullshit. You
Hmm.
can't outsource discipline. You're either taking it on yourself or you're not. There is no shortcuts in life. If you want to do anything for yourself, for anything, any type of greatness, and greatness doesn't need to be winning an Olympic gold medal or being a CEO or whatever, how much money you make. Greatness can be just having a happy life and healthy relationships. If you want that, there's no shortcuts. Stop trying to take shortcuts. You're wasting your time. You're not going to get to where you want to go, and you're not going to learn anything along the way. If you're not learning something, what's the point?
Yeah. I want to touch on a few different quotes here that I think are gonna get you cooking a little bit. That I think will get your mind to do a little masculine feminine dance. Are you ready for this?
Okay.
The body is a vessel of wisdom. Listen to its whispers before they become fucking screams.
Yeah, I love that. I really do. Because, like I was saying earlier, your body's always trying to tell you something, but, and I'm like, case in point, you ignore it, and then eventually your body's going to scream at you, and you're going to be like, fuck, this is really bad timing. This is really like, I don't want to deal with this, but you have no choice because the screaming is there. Like you can't outrun anything. Like everything you try to avoid is eventually going to catch up with you. It's just a matter of time.
Mm-hmm.
So may as well listen to the whispers, make your life a lot easier.
Some people don't know how, though, right? Like sometimes those whispers are there, but they're so calloused within their ear canal to really not be able to take that in. So then it lands in their lap in a form of symptoms: pain, loss, financial issues, huge problems. What are your thoughts then? Because it's like you could sit there in the realm of self-sabotage in the land of, I should have seen this coming. All these signs and symptoms were there, but it's always a mystery looking forward and it's science looking back. It's easy to say I coulda, shoulda, woulda. What advice do you give to people that maybe don't know how to listen to those whispers? Like, how do they get in tune with themselves? And then when the catastrophic event happens, you mentioned being a problem solver. Like, what's the first step that you think people can take to kind of make an improvement in that realm? I know it's kind of a broad and inclusive question, but I'm very curious. Like, so many people just don't know how to do that.
I would say the first step is to cut noise out of your life. Like, you were saying earlier, I wanted to have the headphones in or this. I used to always have the TV on, background noise, just something to fill the void. And now you can't hear your own thoughts if you have constant noise. But even if you're learning something, even if it's like an educational podcast, audiobook, it's still noise. So turn off as much noise as possible, because then you'll actually be able to hear your own thoughts, and you'll actually be able to start working through something. Like, let's say for whatever reason you have a flare of anxiety, you're going to ignore that. You're going to try and pretend it's not there or make it go away by distracting yourself. Stop trying to distract yourself, lean into it. And then you're like, okay, so I feel anxiety, not really sure why. Sometimes it just flares up, but I know it's there. I can be like, hey, anxiety, what's up? We're chilling today. Okay. And then you can actually think about what's going on in your life. And chances are you're going to come to some understanding of like, oh, actually, this from 2 days ago really upset me. And I pretended it didn't. And now I start to feel it in my body.
Hmm.
And then when you do end up going through something catastrophic, significant, whatever, which happens to all of us, even if we are regulated and in alignment and all that, it's still going to happen. Sit with it. Don't try to fix it. Don't try to do anything. Just sit with it for however long it takes for you to like come down and be like, okay, this is the situation. If you allow yourself to pause instead of react, that's going to be an absolute game changer. Because when like something big happens, our initial impulse is just to react. Good or bad is just to react. And that's usually based on whatever our conditioning has been growing up, our trauma responses, whatnot. But if you just pause and chill and do nothing, whether it's for 10 minutes, an hour, a day, a week, then you're going to be like, okay, this is how I actually feel about it. And then you can act from a place of calm and clarity and hopefully love.
So well said. I often talk about this phrase called the power of the pause. If you and I are fighting, and then all of a sudden we jump into a pool and we're trying to fight, and there's splashing and there's bubbles, there's everything going on. I can't see you and you can't see me. But if we just push out the air and allow ourselves to float to the bottom of the pool, and all of a sudden I can see you, you can see me. We can come up to the top of the pool, we can sit on the edge, and we can just have an honest conversation about the discrepancy. Same thing, you mentioned, high level CrossFit, like thrusters. Everybody wants to like hit a big set and then just like dump it, get off me. But it's like, what if you just pause for a second, be like, okay, I can hit one, I can hit two. I mean, how often does that happen kind of in the 15 set of 21-15-9 Fran, where like people come out of the gate hot, they know they can do 9, but then within that 15 set, they either don't want to pick it up, or they pick it up and they hit, 6, 7, 8, 9, then they drop the bar and they feel mad or bad about themselves, being like, oh, I coulda. It's like, well, you didn't make that decision in that moment in time. And so, I mean, there's so many great analogies that we can pull from athletics or different metaphors, but the power of the pause is it's beautiful, and it's really hard to execute when stress and all these things are happening. But allowing yourself to be enrolled in life, knowing that life is going to happen, whether you pre-plan, like you're going to get hit in the face by life. And if you stay ready, you really don't have to get ready. When I say stay ready, it's like take care of yourself, regulate your nervous system, eat quality food, treat people appropriately, exercise, have something that is purposeful in your life, contribution to the world, put your goddamn shopping cart away. Like, I can go on, but like that one to me, like summarizes all the rest, which is why I saved the best for last. But what are your thoughts on that? Like, if you stay ready, when life happens, it's like, hey, this is actually why we train. It's not just for the competitions or to, perform in front of crowds. It's like when life is here, now we have all these tools in our toolbox to navigate and stay calm in the midst of adversity, push when we need to push, back off when we need to back off, and slowly but surely tinker away at the to-do list.
Have you ever heard the saying discipline equals freedom?
Oh yeah. Thank you, Jocko Willink.
I mean, I think it summarizes everything that you've said, because if you have, for the most part, you're disciplined, you're on top of your health, your finances, your fitness, your therapy, whatever, then when things do get thrown, you're like, oh, it's cool, I can handle it because I've built such a base and such a system that I can navigate whatever. Or like, if in a different avenue, if you want to like take a week off or a month off from whatever it is you're doing, you're like, oh, I'm going to go travel and chill for a hot minute. Your discipline is so there that you're going to get right back into it when you come back. It's not going to be like, oh, I'm struggling to find the motivation. It's just there. And you have the financial means to do it because you're disciplined in that aspect. You're not going to lose a bunch of fitness because you're disciplined in that aspect. It just, I think if you're disciplined, it allows you to have so much self control that you have the freedom to do whatever it is you want to do anything, because you're not going to be swayed by anything that I guess might be distracting or frustrating or just throw a wrench in your plans. I
Yeah,
don't know
you
if I
have
explained
clarity
that
of the
right.
lenses. I think you described that perfectly. Here's a fun one. In the pursuit of excellence, remember that rest is a form of resilience. And we touched on that a little bit earlier, but that one really stood out to me. That I was like, ah, she's going to love this one.
Stupid rest. I
I know.
So okay, I learned this the hard way. Back in the beginning of November, I I got really sick. I had, I don't know, some type of virus. It was like in my nervous system. I was fried. And I had a race a couple weeks later, and I was, as soon as I could like get out of bed, I was like, I need to train. I need to race. And so I tried to get back into it way too quickly and ended up like
Mm.
screwing myself for 2 plus months. I basically dug myself into a really big hole. And if I had just rested for 2 weeks and skipped that one race and not tried to train, I probably would have had a really great following race. But instead, I like basically lit myself on fire. So
Did that create buy-in for you? Like that physical and like specific moment create buy-in around like, all right, like I'm not this spring chicken anymore. Like I definitely need to integrate rest as a huge part of my recovery protocol.
yes and no. Yes, because I sleep a lot more now, but I think that's just because I'm not running on constant adrenaline. And I think it's just healthier. Like I don't know, had I been resting properly in my 20s, maybe I would have been more successful, maybe it would have been different. I don't know. But now it's not, I think, an age thing. I think it's just recognizing that for me to be the absolute best I can be in anything I'm doing, I need to rest. I need to recharge because my adrenaline will only carry me so far.
Yeah. The iPhone needs to be plugged in on occasion or it's just getting the battery dead.
Yeah, exactly.
Healing begins when we honor our stories without judgment. and embrace our scars as symbols of survival?
Ooh, okay. Um, my niece asked me a month, sometime last year, she asked me, she's like, hey, you endured a really toxic, abusive relationship for a long time. How do you not see yourself as a victim? And I
Mm,
think that that quote is really about not viewing yourself as a victim, because I don't. It just, did it suck? Yes. But it just is. Like, it doesn't make me less of a person. It doesn't make me less of a human being, less worthy of love, respect, anything. It just was what it was. And if I sit there and I look at that and I judge it and I judge myself for ending up in the situation, or in for staying or for leaving or for whatever it is, if I sit there and judge myself, then I'm sticking myself in the past. I'm not moving forward with my life. I'm just sitting there in the past, feeling toxicity, and that's just going to hold me there. And I'm never going to move forward. I'm never going to be able to be healthy. So I think if you just let situations be what they are, you did the best you could with what you had at the time. Let it be what it is, and hopefully you learn something from it. If you didn't, maybe reevaluate, but as long as you can learn something from it and move forward, then, like, why would you be so mean to yourself?
hmm
Especially because, dear God, no one is perfect and we're all making mistakes constantly.
Yeah, totally. And allowing ourselves to, and not the ones that we can't recover from, but like you said, like we're all in pursuit of love in some way, shape, or form. And the ability to be enrolled in the process and really try to love and be loved, that's hard. It sounds very simple, love and be loved, but giving and receiving are not the same. And being totally enrolled in something and fully present leads to either beauty or pain, and maybe something in the middle sometimes. But I don't know. I think it's very cool when people have overcome difficult situations and they've used it not to just motivate and inspire themselves, but to pay it forward, like you said, to your niece, to other women that maybe are navigating some of those things. And that way, the same way you learned from some of your father's mistakes, now other people can maybe learn from some of yours. And that word mistake maybe comes with a negative connotation to the world, but it's not necessarily negative. It's a data point that helped sharpen your sword and make you a better woman, leading to where you are now.
Yeah, I mean, it's all part of the journey. Can I look back and be like, oh, I wish I did this or this, and maybe my life would have been a little more peaceful? Sure, but I I tell myself that just because it could have been different doesn't mean it would have been better.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe my life could have taken a totally different turn. I like, have you heard of the burnt toast theory?
Mm-mm.
Okay, so I'm obsessed with this theory. You're getting ready in the morning, you make your toast, you have to run out the door, you're late for a meeting, your toast burns, and you're like, shit, and you need to remake your toast, causing you to be 5 minutes later than you would have. But by having to remake your burnt toast, you avoided getting hit by a car crossing the street. So I take the oh my god, burnt toast theory in everything. I'm like, okay, I go to a race and for whatever reason, like the race didn't go how I wanted. But me traveling there and going through that avoided something like maybe a car accident if I had stayed home. Or maybe I met someone there that ended up being a really important person in my life, and that helps like change the trajectory of my life for the better. So I'm like, okay, no matter what, everything is just always working out for me, because whether something like good or bad or small or big happens, it's all still leading me wherever I'm meant to be, whether it's a lesson or just like avoiding something that could have been way worse.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, burnt toast theory.
That's such a cool burnt toast theory. I love that. For people listening, add that to the repertoire for sure. What that's unlocking for me is kind of really understanding that like spirituality is not about escaping reality, but it's about engaging with it more deeply and consciously. And so what I'm curious about with you is what you just talked about is kind of like faith. Life is happening for me, not to me. What is your relationship with faith, and how do you keep this optimism and this hope that things are working out the way they're supposed to?
So I don't always have it down on lock. Like it's something that I need to consciously think about a lot of the time, and sometimes like I need loved one to remind me. So I definitely don't have it like down perfectly, but uh, life's like whatever's going to happen is going to happen. There's nothing I can do about it, good or bad. It's going to be what it is. And can I make decisions that will contribute to my suffering more? Probably. Can I make decisions that will likely lead to a happier, healthier life? Absolutely. So your decisions have consequences, but it's all still, so much of it's just out of your control, that if you're like, okay, I can control these handful of things within myself, everything else is a wash, then you can, I guess you can enjoy the ride a lot more because you're surrendering. You're just trusting that what's going to happen is going to happen. It's going to be for my highest good as long as I'm making decisions from a place of love. And I can just, I guess, ride the wave, because trying to control, like, you're going to fail. You can't control. It's just, I mean, you can try, it's just not going to work. So why bother? All you're going to do is stress yourself out. Like, you're just going to up your anxiety.
Totally. You also, just seemingly have this concept or this mindset of whatever happens, I'm going to be able to figure it out. And I think that's also something that's really powerful because most of life is out of our control. Knowing that every step of the way you're going to figure out how to navigate the treacherous terrain, I think is also another really cool element to your story. What insights can you offer on kind of gracefully navigating life transitions and embracing change? Because you've jumped from a few different sports now, like you talked about different relationships, but sometimes like it's change is tough. We're stubborn creatures.
Change is tough. I struggled with change a lot. I used to fight against it with everything I had because we like predictability. Even if we're in, let's say, a shitty situation or shitty relationship, we like predictability because it's like dance with the devil, right? We'll always choose a familiar hell over an unfamiliar heaven.
Hmm.
And I think when we are going through change or when we're trying to do new things, just accept that you're not going to be perfect at it and it's going to be messy, and you can have as much grace as possible, but like lean into it because you've never been there before. How are you supposed to know everything to do? It's like we expect everyone to have these conflict resolution tools, but like we weren't born with those. You have to actually learn them. So take the time to learn and go through the process and be nice to yourself while you do it. Is there things that you can do that might make it a little easier, like having a good core group that's supportive instead of, trying to stab you in the back? That's going to help for sure. If you want to compete at a high level, is drinking a ton going to help? Definitely not. So like little things like that, yeah, you can have in your control, but just allow yourself to enjoy it and keep trying. And whatever anyone else says, if it's something that's important to you, just fuck them. Do it anyways. They don't need to get it.
Hmm. Yeah, we've talked about that a little bit. I really appreciate the concept of you don't need to fill in the gap all the time, or you don't necessarily have to have an answer. Simply, I don't want to is good enough, or that doesn't align with my heart center, or that doesn't feel right now. Like I think the right people get that and understand that, and they don't judge that. And I think you're totally right. Like being able to take all of these different storytelling elements from various experience and kind of put them into a digestible smoothie and kind of take little bits and pieces of what we've shared today and kind of integrate it into your day-to-day life. A lot of it comes down to like having an honest conversation with self, spending time with self, writing things down so they're not just playing ping pong in your headspace, dialing in the non-negotiables around sleep, food, mindset, exercise, relationships, contribution, and fulfillment. It's a very simple construct, but time and time again, the needle that I can pull out of the haystack is that simplicity is the ultimate sophistication. And I hope that that's like a huge takeaway for people today in our conversation. Kayti, as we're wrapping things up, what legacy do you aspire to kind of create through your work ethic, your mindset, and how do you envision its ripple effect?
I I would love for people to see that you can do anything and everything that you want to do, regardless of your age in life. Like, I'm 35. I only started competing again in the last year and a half, 2 years, and now at a world level. So there's time. Like, there's so many social constructs if you have to do this by this time and this by this time, and none of that's real. Literally, just do whatever you want. And I think what I would really love, if I can help people kind of step into their own power, their own authentic self through learning from my mistakes, or I guess just figuring out what works for them if something resonates, that would be really amazing. I've I actually okay, I have a hot take that I think might relate to this. If we okay.
Bring it.
So, you know how people always say the highest vibrational frequency is happiness? Like, if you're really happy, you're going to attract all of the things. And if you're like sad and a downer, you're going to just attract shitty things. Have you heard of this before?
Oh yeah. Hmm.
Okay, so I disagree. I think that happiness and joy isn't the highest vibrational frequency that attracts everything that you want in life. I think that authenticity is.
I agree.
So, so when
I can read through that bullshit when somebody's like overly joyful. I'm like, okay, what are you masking? What are you hiding? I actually view, like you said, authenticity and peace. Like if you say no to most things, you're so content with this like minimalist lifestyle. I'm like, okay, you have access to something that like isn't a physical item. It's something that has to be earned through deep, meaningful work.
100%. And I think that if you're always like, I need to be happy so that I attract all these things in life, I need to be happy for this, that, and everything, then you're actually then shaming or denying the emotions that are going to come up, because you're a human being. So you're going to feel the full spectrum of emotions. And as soon as you start to deny or shame yourself for feeling something that isn't positive, then you're actually hurting yourself, which would then quote unquote lower your frequency. But if you're
Mm,
being your most authentic self and you're like, okay, today I feel sad. Don't know why, but I feel sad. Okay, that's fine. As long as you're being your most authentic self, you're still going to attract everything in alignment into your life, regardless of whether you're happy or sad that day. Those are just the emotions that are passing through.
that's mic drop right there. Beautiful. Kayti Simonson, ladies and gentlemen. Kayti, what's to come next in the realm of obstacle course racing, high rocks, pentathlon, all the different things? What do you got cooking?
Everything, because apparently I just can't sit still. High Rocks, yeah, racing with Chris this weekend, and then World Championships in June, OCR World Championships in September. At some point, I'm gonna throw myself, I think, into the Canadian National Championships for pentathlon, because, yep, that's apparently what I'm gonna do. So
Why
just,
not?
yeah, exactly. Why not? Let's see how it goes. There's fencing in it, and I've always wanted to be a pirate, just as like one of the many things. And Indiana Jones. I want, maybe more so, Indiana Jones. So I feel like that's going to kind of check that box for me,
Let's
even if it
go.
doesn't go well.
Hey, if it doesn't go well, you have a good Halloween costume for October coming up at the end of the year.
Totally.
It was such a pleasure connecting with you. Kayti, where can people find you?
Um, Instagram. That's it. I don't have Facebook. I don't even know
Nice.
how to use Facebook. So just Instagram. It's my name.
That's awesome. And I would love for people to check out your amazing speech that you gave. It was really cool. The way you articulate it like hit home for those high performers out there that are trying to find peace and navigating the peaks and valleys of entrepreneurship, parenting, high level performance, whether it's a lawyer, a doctor, all the things. Kayti does a good job really kind of creating metaphorical analogies. Very similar. I don't know if you've read it. It's called The Primal Blueprint by Mark Sisson. And he talks about like a prototypical caveman being Grok. And then he talks about like somebody that's in pursuit of sickness and making poor choices, being Krog. And I think it's important to see and create transparency on both of those lenses of, hey, all gas, no brakes, 100 miles an hour, not making time for self-love and nutrition and food. It might work in the beginning, but it's not going to work long term. And you did a beautiful job articulating that. So check that out on Kayty's Instagram. If you enjoyed my conversation today, guys, with Kayti Simonson, please rate, review, and subscribe. And as always, stay on the hunt for who you've not yet become. Until next time.